Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess if you are new here. If this is your first time clicking on one of my videos, I vlog lifestyle content. So happy you're here. So for today's video, you guys, as you can tell in the title, my birth story, which is so crazy. I know I've been MIA. It's been like almost 2 months of me posting. Guys, I kid you not, the day that the nesting vlog went live was the day I gave birth. So, you know, I had a video cranked out and everything for y'all, but that was nesting vlog part 1. And oh, we got a little one over here. She's stirring. She was napping and I put her in this because I wanted to film this video, and she loves being on mama. So I have her on here with me for today's video. But like I was saying, the day that I gave birth was the day that I posted that vlog without knowing, and we'll get into that story in a little bit. But yeah, I wanted to sit down and record my birth story. I did not vlog my birth. I never had the intentions of ever doing that. But I did want to sit down and like tell y'all the story, how everything went down, because there's so much that happened. And I just wanted for my own memories too to look back on. I literally took notes the other day because I'm like, wait, I'm forgetting like little details as the days, you know, pass. So I'm currently 7 weeks postpartum today, which is crazy. Like, these weeks have flown by. They've felt so long but short at the same time. Like, in the grand scheme of things, like, the nights are long for sure, and I'll get into that in probably a separate video. I'll probably have to do like a little postpartum video because that's a whole nother thing. I could sit here for hours talking about like the first 6 weeks and like all that, because it's a lot. But anyways, so grab your little drink, get cozy, and let's get into today's video. All right, you guys, so let's get into the birth story. Let's see, little one stirring. Let's see if Miss Sky Girl is, she's fine, she's sleeping. Okay, let's get into the birth story. So let's backtrack to July 18th, okay? I'm gonna be looking at my phone because I have like a list of points that I want to remember to say during this story time. Okay, so July 18th, let's start there. So at around 12:30 a.m. I start experiencing some contractions, and contractions that like woke me up from my sleep, and I was like, okay, this is a contraction. Because previously, days prior to this, I was feeling like a lot of Braxton Hicks, and I was like, is this a contraction? Is this a real thing? Is it not? Oh, I knew it was a real thing at 12:30 a.m. when I started experiencing them. So I was timing because I was like, okay, they're coming pretty frequently. So I started timing them, and it was weird because in the beginning they were like 5 minutes apart, 6 minutes apart. Like, they were pretty consistent, and I was like, wait, like, is this the real thing? Like, is it happening? So I started tracking, and I didn't want to wake Trey up, my husband, because I was like, I'm not sure if this is like the real thing. I don't know, you know. So I'm tracking, and then all of a sudden they start slowing down. It starts being like 20 minutes apart, 10 minutes apart. I'm like, okay, so this is not the real deal, but I'm getting close. So it was around like 4 or 5 a.m. Trey woke up and he was like, babe, are you okay? Because I was having like a strong contraction, and I was like, I think we're having this baby soon. Like, I literally was like, I think we're having this baby soon. And you know the craziest part of it all? I had my 38-week appointment that same day at 8 a.m. So in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna keep pushing through until we get to my appointment, so my midwife can like, I can tell her everything and just be like, hey, this is going on. Do we think I'm in early labor? You know, XYZ. I kind of already knew I was in early labor just because my contractions were like getting stronger. So words, I couldn't like talk through them. I was like, okay, wait a minute. So Trey was like, do you think you need to go to the hospital? I was like, no, let's just wait for my appointment, because it was already coming in a few hours. And at that point, the contractions started slowing down. Like, they started, like, literally, they were like, sometimes they would just disappear. So basically, we waited, right? We waited until 8 o'clock until my appointment. So we drove to the appointment, and I was telling her, by that point the contractions started getting like a little bit more intense. So I was telling her how I felt, and she was like, okay, let's check you. So she checked me, and I was 2 centimeters dilated. So she was just telling me like, okay, well, maybe by the weekend. If not, if you're still pregnant by next week, we can do a membrane sweep, yada yada yada. So I'm like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, I got time. Like, you know, I got time. Obviously she didn't know for sure. She was just, you know, saying, like, she thought it was gonna be like the weekend. So, oh, I scared her. She jumped. I'm sorry. My little nugget. So I'm like, all right, we got time. But then in the back of my head, I was like, we need to get things ready. And y'all, it was so crazy because I was talking to my cousin the night before, and she was like, are your bags packed, like your hospital bags? And I was like, no, not yet, I still have time, yada yada yada. Because everybody kept telling me like, oh, first times moms always go later, you know? So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go past 40 weeks, I'm gonna go to 41 weeks. I was already thinking like I had 2-3 extra weeks, right? So thank God the night before I packed most of my hospital bag. I still needed a couple things, so it was pretty much packed. But so what happened was, after we left the appointment, we were like, okay, well, we got time. Like, my contractions were like on and off, they weren't really like anything crazy. So I was like, let's go get coffee, because we have like a tradition, Trey and I, that every Thursday we go get coffee, right? So we went to Mountain Goat, and we're in line, and the girls on the counter, they were like, oh my gosh, when are you due? I was like, maybe this weekend. It was so funny because they were like, oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, I just really want a waffle and some coffee. This is what I'm thinking about, right? So as I'm in there, I literally start having contractions again. I'm eating my waffle, like, it's just so funny to think about. So I'm eating my waffle, drinking my matcha. Trey and I are just chilling for a little bit. I start having like another contraction. I'm like, this one's a little painful. Then I have another one in there, and I was like, okay, we need to go. So we get to the car, and I was like, wait, I need to go to TJ Maxx, so I need a couple last minute things like before I go into labor. Y'all, we go into TJ Maxx, kid you not, I'm having contractions in TJ Maxx. Like, I'm talking like I have to hurl over like this over the clothing racks because I was in so much pain. I'm like, who does this? Who's in labor and wants to run last minute errands? Take it from me, y'all, if you're a first time mom, get your bags ready, get your stuff ready before you're 38 weeks pregnant, because the same thing can happen to you and you can start having contractions. So anyways, I grabbed what I need real quick, and I told Trey, okay, we need to get home. Like, they're getting progressively, you know, stronger and stronger. Okay, so I tell Trey, we need to get home. Like, at that point, the contractions were getting stronger and stronger. I was like, I just need to be home. I need to relax. I need to just labor at home, basically. But in my head, I'm still listening to what the midwife said, so I'm like, I have time. Like, I have 2 days, like, you know. So as soon as I get home, y'all, I kid you not, by that point it was, I want to say 11:30, almost 12 o'clock. Yeah, I think it was like 11:30 when we got back home. And I kid you not, as soon as I got back home, it was like instant. My contractions, 2 minutes apart. 2 minutes apart, super painful. I could not talk through them. I was like, what is going on? I was timing them because I didn't want to go to the hospital beforehand. Like, I didn't want to get sent home. Obviously, you don't want to bring all your stuff and then they check you and you're like, oh no, sorry, you're still only 2 centimeters dilated, you have to go back home. I did not want that. So I was like telling Trey, I'm gonna wait until I literally can't anymore, and then like I'll go. The thing that like really got me though was I started having contractions that morning at 12:30, and that whole night I didn't really sleep at all. So I had been up already for hours, you know. So I was already super exhausted. I could not sleep through them. Obviously they were super painful. So I started timing them, and they were 2 minutes apart for an hour. And I told Trey, I was like, I think this is it, babe. I think this is it. We need to get the bags ready. We need to call my mom. Like, we need to get all our ducks in a row, basically. Like, I was freaking out. Yeah, so I was freaking out, and I was telling Trey, I'm like, I think this is happening today. Like, we need to get everything in order. So Trey's finishing up packing everything, and I'm literally having contractions back to back. And at this point, it's 2 hours. I've been having contractions for 2 minutes apart, and some were 2 minutes, some were like 3 minutes, some were 4 minutes. So it was really like, but they were really close together. So we end up leaving. Y'all, that car ride to the hospital, it was about a 25-minute car ride. Whoa, literally the worst car ride of my entire life. It was so painful, and like when we would go over like speed bumps and stuff, and it was just like, I don't even want to think about that, but it was definitely, it was bad because my contractions were like just super painful. So at that point we're on our way to the hospital, and Trey calls my mom. And a backstory. Okay, so when I was having the contractions at 12:30 that morning, I texted my mom and I was like, hey mom, I've been having contractions for a few hours. And my mom was like, okay, wait, I'm packing up the car, I'm packing my bags and everything and leaving them in my car just in case. And then I was telling her, as I, you know, as the time went on, I was telling my mom after my appointment, I was telling her, I was like, hey, I'm still having contractions, yada yada yada. My mom was like, you know what, I'm gonna come down this weekend just in case. I'm gonna come down this weekend to help you get everything ready, because it's happening soon, basically. Y'all, I'm so happy that she did, because we called her and she was like, we called and we're like, Trey was like, we're on our way to the hospital, it's happening. And she was like 30 minutes from the hospital at that point. So it was like the perfect timing. It was literally God. So she was like, all right, I'm headed there. Like she was headed on her way too. So we get to the hospital and we get into like the labor and delivery unit. And honestly, I'm not gonna go into too much detail about my hospital experience because it wasn't the best, honestly. And I'm not gonna like go into too much detail about it. But basically, it just didn't seem like they really cared, or they were really pressed to like get me into a room. So long story short, basically the triage, all the rooms in triage were full, so they sent me straight to a labor and delivery room. So when I get into the labor delivery room, I am like curled over. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like, put this gown on, we're gonna check you, yada yada yada. So they check me, and at that point she goes, you're 4 centimeters. Oh, okay, girl. Hey, do you want to be a part of the video too? She gotta say her word in. But so at that point she checks me, she's like, you're 4 centimeters. I was like, huh? I've been contracting for this long, 2 minutes apart? Absolutely not. Bring me the epi. Bring me the epi. Y'all, was so tired and hurting at that point. I was like, oh no, absolutely not. Like, I need the epidural. So I asked for the epidural, and it was pretty fast actually. Within like 30 minutes, the anesthesiologist came in, and I was actually kind of nervous about the epidural. Just like, I didn't, obviously I'm a first time mom, I didn't know what to expect. And surprisingly, y'all, I don't know if it's because I was in so much pain, I barely felt it. Like I literally just felt the little pricks. Barely, didn't even feel like the big needle that goes in the middle of your back. I barely even felt that. So I get the epidural, I'm laying down, they're like, all right, it's gonna take a couple minutes for it to kick in. So a couple minutes go by and I'm starting to feel numb on my right side, but I don't feel anything on my left. Like I'm still feeling pain on my left. So I tell the nurse, I'm like, hey, I'm still feeling pain on my left side. And she was like, okay, well, let's give it a little bit more. So we give it a little bit more. Yeah, I kid you not, I was freaking out at that point because I'm like, I'm not feeling any numbing on this side. So they turned me on my side, like basically to my left side, so the epidural can kind of like run off onto that side. And I've heard that, like, a lot of people, I've heard different stories. Like some people say the epidural doesn't work for them, some people say it only worked on one side. So that's kind of what happened with me. It favored more the right side than the left. Eventually it did, like, it did help a little bit on the left, but I could completely like still feel the contractions were not nearly as bad as what it was, but I could still feel them a little bit. And I was just kind of like shocked by that, because I thought when you get the epidural, everything is numb, you can't move your legs. And I heard it varies from hospital to hospital, but with my epidural, I could still move my legs. They just felt really heavy, but I could still lift them up. So I was like, okay, so I'm about to feel this. So I was just prepared, like preparing myself mentally, like I'm not completely numb, you're still gonna feel something, but it was just so much more of a relief. So at that point I was able to just relax, rest, finally just get a little break, which I definitely needed because I was running on literally E. By that point it was like, by the time I got my epidural, it was like, I want to say it was like 3:34 almost. And obviously like I've been since 12:30 with contractions. So after I got the epidural, chilled for a little bit. My mom was already there. My mom had gotten there before they gave me the epidural, so it was nice because she was in the room with me. Trey was in the room with me, a nurse. So I was literally holding Trey and the nurse's hand like so tight when I was getting the epidural because I didn't know what to expect. But then yeah, after I got the epidural, we just had to wait. It was a waiting game. So then at around, the timing of it all is kind of a blur. I don't even know if I wrote this in my notes. Yeah, I didn't write it in my notes, but basically a couple hours went by and I started feeling some more pressure. So I was like, hey, can you check me? So they checked me and I was around, I think it was like 8. I was around like 7 or 8. I can't remember exactly. So at that point, she was like, do you want me to break your water to get things, you know, speed things up? And I was like, yeah, sure. At that point it was already like, you know, later. So she broke my water and then literally, I kid you not guys, in like 30 minutes I started feeling like pressure, and I was like, okay. She's like, when you start feeling like intense pressure, call me. So I think like maybe like 45 minutes went by and I started feeling like intense pressure. It was like really quick towards the end. Well, wait till I get to the rest of the story, but at that point I thought like, oh wow, we're like progressing, like she's coming, you know. At this point it was like, I want to say it was like 8 or 9. Again, like I said, blurry with the timing. But at that point I started feeling a lot of pressure and I asked her to check. I called her and it took her a little while to come, and then when she checked I was 9 centimeters, and she's like, all right, like this can happen really fast, like just let me know whenever you feel like even more intense pressure. So a little bit more time went by, I started feeling that intense pressure, called her in, I was at 10 centimeters. So she was like, all right, time to push. So at that point I was like, you know, just praying. I was trying to just stay focused and not think about everything else, just literally focus on the task at hand, pushing this baby girl out. So hopefully the lighting is not getting darker. It's like literally getting cloudy outside and I feel like slowly the video has gotten darker and darker. But anyways, so she said it's time to push. So I was pushing, and what happened was my contractions started slowing down as I was pushing. So they would stop, literally. Like I had to wait like 5-10 minutes in between to push again. That was literally horrible because I was just wanting to get her out, and it was just like the waiting game basically. So 2 hours went by basically. I was pushing for 2 hours. And then towards the end it was like literally crunch time. I was pushing until finally baby girl made her arrival, and it was such, I can't even describe the feeling when I was pushing her out, because I could still feel her like coming out. It was just like this, I can't even describe it. Like if you know, you know. Like it was just so surreal. And in that moment, like everything, all the pain, everything that I had experienced throughout pregnancy and birth and labor just disappeared. Like everything was just about my beautiful baby girl, all the love that I felt. You guys, when they placed her on my chest, I was just crying and crying. It was just the happiest day of my life. And you know, it was definitely such a fast-paced, slow day. By the time I gave birth, it was 11:24 p.m. so I was almost in labor for 24 hours, which is crazy to think about. But yeah, I was like so fast yet slow at the same time. I was just not expecting it to just happen all in that same day. And I was 38 weeks and like 4 days pregnant, which was crazy because like I said, I thought I was gonna go past the time, but nope. Baby girl decided to make her arrival. Guys, I am just so in love with her. I am so obsessed with my baby girl. She's perfect. She is truly my joy. And I am just so happy that she's here. Her name is Sky Leanne Young, and I just think it fits her so perfect. Sky, I've loved that name literally for like years, and I literally was looking through names when I found out it was a girl, and I saw Sky come up, and I asked her, I was like, oh my gosh, do you love this name? Like, do you like it? Like, he was like, I love that name, it's so unique, it's so cute. So we decided on Sky. And then Leanne, my full name is Jez Leanne, a little part of me and her middle name, so that's what we decided on, Leanne. And Leanne actually means my God has answered, so it has a really sweet meaning. But yeah, you guys, that was my birth story. I tried to condense it a little bit. Hopefully this video is not too long. I kind of like rushed towards the end because there's so many like little details that you forget. But yeah, I am so happy that my baby girl is here, and I'm just so excited to get back into vlogging. I have some fun vlogs planned for you guys, so stay tuned for that. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye, you guys.